Good morning. Welcome to the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living, our Cathedral of Kindness here in downtown Ventura. We are so delighted to have people here in the house, and we're also as equally delighted. Well, we are divided, but not in spirit. We are delighted to have people watching online as well. So it's just so great to hear you, and I invite you to settle in wherever you are. And I'm going to ask Brock, our former board president, to say a few words.
Hi. I thought a lot about what I was going to wear this morning.
And that's what
I went with the tribal, the ceremonial costume of my people. So, did you hear that? Cathedral of Kindness? Did you hear that?
Cathedral of Kindness.
That's sort of what it's like. Things just arise. Our task is for leaders and board members and people who are members and everything is to support the vision of our wonderful, inspired minister. I wanted to mention something that happened to me several years ago here. I was at a class. I think it was one of the first classes I ever took, and people were talking about thankfulness and forgiveness and wholeness and oneness. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of a nice room to be in. And then there was this guy. He's sitting in the back. Dr. David Carey, and he was talking about non-duality, and I go, wow, very often you're not in a room where people are talking about non-duality, and to be in such a room, even though it's still quite mysterious what that means, what non-duality means is still quite mysterious, but to be in such a room is an amazing, amazing moment, and we get to be a part of this thing that is evolving here, and kindness seems to be the cutting edge of it. Like the practice of countless tiny acts of kindness, that's probably what's going to change the world, and we get to be part of that. So welcome. Really glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Brock. Thank you. And thank you all for being here, for being part of our transformation and part of our revolution of kindness in the world. I'm calling forth a very kind being here this morning, and that is Bill Hadris. He is our person of youth and family, and he's going to enlighten us.
Good morning. I'm Bill Hadris with Youth and Family. And how do you feel when someone tells you to surrender? What if that someone is your heart? When you have compassion, you surrender to your own heart. You are surrendering to love because God is love, the one force of the universe that connects us all. When you surrender your head to your heart, you allow your heart to give you a wiser perspective. The real teacher is within you. So I invite you to close your eyes, relax, and listen to your heart for a few moments. Have you ever had to surrender something in your life? What does surrendering your head to your heart mean to you? What is one thing you would do if you surrendered it and did not worry what other people thought? A little something to take with you when you leave today. So now I invite you to repeat after me. I find peace when I listen to my heart.
I find peace when I listen to my heart.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, so now we're going to ask our practitioner Reverend Susan Burrell coming up, and she's going to lead us in a prayer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How fabulous to see faces and people in the sanctuary again. Yay. So I invite you just to take a deep breath. And in this moment, I open to the truth of my being. I stand in that truth. I allow that truth to flow through me. And as I surrender deeper into my heart, I know that that truth is love. I know that that truth is kindness. I know that that truth is wisdom. I know that that truth is joy, unbounded. And so as I just allow myself to surrender into that deep, deep well of well-being, I know for each and every one here and each and every one watching, and indeed for the entire planet, that there is only one pure spirit, one source energy that flows in and through and around everything. And that is the truth of my being. And that is the truth of everyone here. So knowing that this day was made holy, that this day has already been blessed, and each and every one of us gets to be like that hummingbird, seeking the nectar of joy, of love, of peace, of wisdom. I invoke that truth now in oneness, in allness. And I surrender this word into that law of love that has already said yes and is moving it into our physical, mental, and emotional bodies. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Susan. And so let's continue to breathe deeply and be present here in this beautiful gathering of souls and spirits, of love, of kindness, of wholeness, all of the things that Reverend Susan mentioned in her prayer, all of the things that Brock mentioned in his introduction, and all of the things that Bill spoke about in his youth message, and all that we carry in our hearts. Because in a circle of wholeness, in a circle of perfection, which means inclusive of everything, it means that all parts of our being are welcome here in this group that celebrates wholeness. And so we anchor into that wholeness and allow it to be. And in this anchoring, in this connection, we start to lose the fascination with the world of effects. We start to release our hypnosis of the things that bind us to a dualistic reality. We start to enter into the sacred space of truth, which is the I am presence, which is that space of oneness, that inclusion of everything and everyone. And we breathe in and we breathe out into the sacred, holy I am, into that wholeness. And as we breathe in and breathe out, we start to remember the truth of our essential being, the truth of our nature, why we came here on this planet Earth, simply to express that wholeness in a human form. And as we breathe, we let go, we surrender, and we allow ourselves to remember. As we sing together, I am remembering who I am. And I invite you to put your mask over your nose and your mouth, perhaps only for one more week. We don't really know, but it's what we're doing now. And we'll just sing softly into our masks, knowing that the I am presence is bigger than any little piece of fabric on our faces. We sing together, I am remembering. in that space of divine remembrance. The part of us that transforms or transcends all conditions, that is completely unconcerned, completely at peace, completely in love as love, love becoming love. We breathe in deeply, and then we exhale, opening our eyes in love and in service to what is, as it is, and so it is.
Hello. Yeah. Good to be back and good to see so many faces here and online too. So this song, since today we're talking about coming out of the pandemic, is just a reminder of how everything has changed too. That one thing remains is ourselves, and just tending to that and making our home, cleaning out the home that is inside of us, our heart, our mind, our body, our souls. So the song is called Home, and it's just a reminder to maintain that internal peace and that internal sense center. Here it is. Hold on to me as we go, as we roll down this unfamiliar road. Although the way is streaming us along, just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home. Settle down, it'll all be clear, and don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. Oh, the trouble, it might drag you down. If you get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home. Settle down, it'll all be clear. Don't pay no mind to the demon, they fill you with fear. Oh, the trouble, it might drag you down. If you get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home. Settle down, it'll all be clear, and don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. Oh, the trouble, it might drag you down. If you get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
So, Jessica, that was beautiful, as always. Thank you so much. And I also wondered if the congregation noticed that there was an additional sound on the I Am Remembering. Mary and David were playing chimes on that, which is beautiful. Yeah, really nice, right? We had done a sort of a subtle fundraiser, mainly just around choir members, to raise some money to purchase chimes for the choir, and then that was, I don't know, maybe around February of 2020, and we didn't get to hear much about the chimes, but it's nice to have them as part of the service. So as many of you know, if you notice the newsletter, I'm actually interviewing somebody today, and I want to start by just talking briefly about this tradition that we have at the center. Sometimes on Mother's Day, we read a certain poem called "The Lanyard." Anybody here familiar with that poem? Beautiful poem, and if you haven't read it or heard it, it's basically the story of a young man, and he's writing this poem, and he says, you know, Mom, you gave birth to me, you held me through fevers and illnesses, you listened to my woes, you dried my tears, you complimented my artwork even when it wasn't very good, and look, here, to repay you, I've given you a lanyard that I made in summer camp. And, you know, I think about that poem a lot because particularly today, we're looking at some of the people that were really just so amazing during the pandemic, and that is our healthcare workers of all capacities. Everybody who worked in a hospital or who was a first responder. It's like you sacrificed so much to be there for the world, and we're going to give you a round of applause and hope that it's enough. So. And if you work in healthcare, whether it's mental health or whether it's physical health, nursing, doctoring, chaplain, what else? If you work in a hospital, if you put a bandage on a person who's ill or something like that, just stand up and let us give you another round of applause. Let us acknowledge you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your service. And some of our nurses and doctors are not here today, but I did ask a couple of them what it was like to be in part of COVID. And I heard from one of them, Sarah Hansen, and she wrote, "This past year felt like a marathon. I remember early in the year as COVID was just hitting, feeling scared, overwhelmed, anxious, and ready to give up. I couldn't do that, though, as my patients and my family were relying on me. I had no choice but to keep going. The only thing that seemed to help in those times of overwhelm was prayer and meditation." And then she says, "I'm no pro at either," which is kind of funny because we're all good at it in our own way. But I found that breathing for just a moment and asking God to help me be strong and please help me get through this. See, this to me proves that she is a pro in prayer and meditation. Please help me be strong and please help me get through this. Somehow did in fact help beyond words. I found myself more at peace and was able to keep going, and for this I am so grateful. And I know that every person that stood up and every person that participated in a healthcare capacity in whatever way, whether it was a chaplain or a firefighter or an EMT or so many unsung heroes, nurses, doctors, dentists, that you all gave us so much. So to celebrate that and to honor that, I invited a nurse who is also a Science of Mind minister to come speak, and her name is Reverend Veronica Silva. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about her. I'm going to read her bio to you. So she is an RN who worked on a COVID unit, and here's her bio. Reverend Veronica Silva has a passion for all that is God. She became a Science of Mind practitioner in 2003 and a licensed minister in 2020. Her professional career has been as a registered nurse working in the hospital setting. She loves helping people heal their insides and their outsides. Veronica and her wife Denise have 2 children, Gavin and Gracie, that are young, and 2 adult children, Daniel and Shannon. Together, they love adventuring in the outdoors, snowing, skiing, water skiing, boating, and hiking. Veronica's motto, "When you can see God in everyone and everything, life becomes magical." So it's my great pleasure to invite Reverend Veronica to come up on stage with us. She's taking off her mask now. And she's going to sit here next to me. And we are not 6 feet apart. However, have you been vaccinated?
I have been vaccinated.
I've been vaccinated
yes.
too.
Okay,
I think we're good. Okay, just try not to
We're good.
spit on me if possible.
Okay,
I'll do the same.
No
Okay.
singing, no singing.
No singing. Oh, darn it, I was going to sing my questions to you.
I was going to sing my answers.
Oh, see?
There
Well.
we go.
See, we're off to a good start already, right? Okay. So, Veronica, I spoke on the phone with Veronica, and we talked about some things to talk about, but I'm wondering if people here would like to know what it was like for you working on a COVID unit during the pandemic.
Wow. Well, my capacity at work is a charge nurse, and so not only do I have responsibility for the patients, but as well the safety of the nurses and the staff that come onto the floor. And I would love to tell you I was ready. I took over, and I was so excited to be a charge nurse in a pandemic. That wasn't. That was not the case. As a matter of fact, to be honest with you, I wanted to run the other way. I was definitely scared to be in that position, and I could tell and feel that the nurses were also afraid, because we were all in positions that we've never been in, and then we're responsible for the patients. So that was what it was like, I would say, probably in March and April and May, at the beginning. Definitely fear. Yes. But then I had a conversation when I was in ministerial school, and Reverend Catherine McKinney was my mentor, and I was telling her, I just want to run. I don't want to do this. And I'm sure we've all been there some point in our life, and kicking and screaming. And she looked at me and she said, they need you. This is what your life journey has brought you to this point. I've been trained as a nurse, trained in consciousness through ministerial school. They need you. And wow, that just hit my heart. I was like, wow. And from that moment on until this moment right here, I've owned that. I've taken ownership of my life path. I thought my life path was, to be affirmative and, be joyful, and, that is my life path. But my life path is to lead others through whatever it is they need to be led through. And at last year, it was through a pandemic. And so I feel blessed that she said that to me. We get those angels who come to us at the right time and say the right thing that like clicked, turns the key and unlocks whatever that was stopping me from owning, who I am, who God brought me to this earth to be. So, yeah.
One thing that I love about what you're saying, and I'm going to speak to them, not instead of you.
Yes.
You get it, right? Okay. I'm going to speak to the camera too. One of the things that I love about what Veronica is saying is the element of sacrifice, that we don't really talk about sacrifice a lot. But it sounds like to me, Veronica, that you sacrificed your fear and your concern and trusted in something bigger to get you through it, and also recognized that the world is a better place through our willingness to empty ourselves of fear and to move into a greater place of transformation with and for others, because I'm sure that the experience changed you as well.
Oh, absolutely. Talk about surrender. We talked about surrender a little bit earlier. I truly had to surrender to God. And instead of running away, I had to run to God. Not that God's outside of myself, but to God within, to find the strength and the source.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because so often we run towards fear. We run towards the worst case scenario. I was working with someone the other day who's away from the church, someone I know who lives in a different country, and she's facing a very challenging situation in her life, and she wanted me to help her with some type of affirmation. And she's like, well, aren't I denying my feelings of fear and worry? And I'm like, your ego's already taken care of that. Your ego's good to go with that. Let's throw a different light on this. And it sounds like that's kind of what happened for you when you had that angelic encounter with the Reverend who guided you in that direction. That's beautiful.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What exactly were you afraid of?
Well, for one, I was afraid for my family, because I was at the beginning, as we're all learning what works and what doesn't work, we had many exposures. And so I was afraid to bring it home. I actually lived in a hotel for a month away from my family till we figured everything out and what was safe and not safe. So I was afraid for my family. And I was afraid for the nurses because they were afraid for their families as well. And because we were hearing one thing, what was safe, and then we were hearing something else that was safe. So we weren't sure. So that in itself generated an uncertainty. And yeah, so that, and the responsibility, I mean, to be honest, the responsibility of, of it all. And so,
Right,
yes,
right.
yes.
And when I was speaking on the phone with Veronica, she was also telling me that for the patients, a lot of them were so sick that they wouldn't get enough oxygen to their brains, so they'd start doing things like taking off their masks, which again increases the risk of exposure for everybody, not only the other patients, but for the nursing and medical staff as well. So that must have been kind of a thing too.
It is an interesting disease, I will say that. Yeah, they would take off their oxygen masks and get confused, and we'd put it back. It was just a cycle that we were trying to manage.
You also mentioned when we spoke on the phone that there were families where people, like more than one family member died, and how did you hold all of that grief?
Yes, so I think that's one thing right now that the family members, we would have one in ICU and one on our floor, and their siblings or their husbands or wives would be trying to manage, like making really hard decisions about their families. And I just kept breathing. I mean, really, it's really about just taking that big breath in and remembering why I'm here, remembering who I'm serving. And so there was a lot of grief. And my oldest daughter is also an ICU nurse, and she saw a lot of things that I don't think, people are exposed to a lot of things. And so she would call me with her grief as well, and so I was balancing both. And I think that's still an unspoken, I'll call it energy underlying right now, is grief. Not for everyone, because we all had our own battles, so to speak, that we dealt with during COVID, being locked down, maybe jobs loss, whatever loss that we experienced, whether it was loss of loved ones, loss of a job. And I noticed an underlying, when people start talking about COVID, I noticed a voice cracked, and it happened to me, and I noticed it was happening to me. So then I started paying attention to it in other people, like their voice would crack. I'm like, why are our voices cracking when we're talking about COVID? And I believe that's what it is that there's an underlying grief that needs to be looked at, addressed, healed, released, whatever it may be.
Yeah. I wonder if when I look at a lot of the things happening in the world right now, I see grief instead of rage. Even in some of the, there's so many people that are attacking other groups of people. We had a conversation last week briefly in the sermon about how we had connected with the Sikh temple down the street, where people will kill Sikh people because they wear turbans, and they think that they're Muslim or Islamic terrorists. Which, again, it's like, really? But it seems like there's so much unhealed grief in the world, and I wonder if, in some ways, if the pandemic really brought the grief to the forefront so that we could start addressing grief in a bigger way. I'm wondering your thoughts about that.
Yes, I believe. When we stopped the busyness of life.
Right.
And when you stop the busyness of life, everything rises within us to the surface that we've been pushing down. And so, yes, I believe grief is definitely something that no one says, oh, I'm going to go deal with my grief. It's not something that, you just automatically do. It's something that...
Yeah, I was more like, I'm going to go eat my feelings and do a jigsaw puzzle.
Yes.
Anybody? Okay. Yes. Yeah. So... But that to me is really interesting. I know I'm sort of veering from what we said we were going to talk about, but I wonder if there is a bigger grief problem in the world than we are acknowledging. And we actually just had somebody, I wasn't able to attend the ceremony, but she was talking, this person gave a seminar, and she talked about how underlying so much of racism, there's this underlying grief, and I also think it's shame too, that it's projected shame onto people, and everybody's projecting their shame onto each other, and beneath shame there is this grief of not being enough or not having enough, or even the grief of impermanence. That's one of the things the pandemic did, I think, for me, and I'm curious on your take on this too, is that it helped me to realize, A, how little control I have, or perhaps anybody, if you're willing to acknowledge it, has over life, which is a little bit different than what we teach here. There's this thing in our credo, how we believe in the control of conditions. Not anymore. Nope. I can do, sorry, but God is going to strike me with a lightning bolt. Or Ernest Holmes. He's sitting right behind me. He's right there. Yeah.
Watch it.
Yeah. Well, my dog, who's dressed up as a nun, will protect me. So there's that. But thinking about the control of conditions, and there is this condition in life that is just reality, that is impermanence, and we want to fight it so badly. And it's not that impermanence is bad; it's our resistance to impermanence that gets in our gets in our way. So I wonder if this pandemic was an opportunity for all of us to remain conscious if we could, and it's not over yet. We still have many opportunities to remain consciousness, and there will be many opportunities to do this work, but just to remain consciousness of our resistance to impermanence and start to deal with it a different way. I don't exactly know what that way is yet, but here we are, so I think we're going to discover it and unfold it together.
Yes.
I'm curious about your take on that.
Wow, that's a really big question.
Yeah, I know. Back to you, Veronica.
Well, it's our fear.
Yeah.
It's definitely our fear, and media just exacerbates that.
Yes, it does.
It really, the more I watch TV, the more afraid I became.
Yeah.
And so I think that is part of just managing our mind to what we're feeding it. And I would tell my parents as well, because my dad would come to me with, all of his concerns, and I would say, could you just maybe turn the TV off for 1 hour a day, because he would just watch it continuously.
Right.
And so that, I think, is more, that we have to be aware of what we're feeding our mind during those types of times.
Yeah.
Because then that just brings all that fear of impermanence up to the surface.
I love that.
So, yeah.
I love how you gave your dad something manageable. Like, don't turn off the TV altogether. Let's turn it off for an hour, then work up to it, right?
Little bit at a time.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. So, it might be smart for us as a congregation, and if you're here, you're here for a reason, just to maybe take a look to see if there is fear in you. And if there is fear in you, it means that you're like everybody else, that you're human. And maybe we could all take a look at what's feeding our fear. What is exacerbating that fear? What is feeding the fear this line of falsehood? Because beyond the impermanence, there is this grace, and there is this sustainable consciousness that sustains itself, that is itself, that knows that all is well, and that all of these things are dancing on the surface of the ocean. And beneath the surface of the ocean, there is this stillness. There's a still point at the bottom of the ocean where everything is okay, and that still point is our source, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. One of the questions when we're in fear to ask ourselves is, is that really true?
Yeah.
Is
Right.
that really true what I'm thinking? Is it really true? And that just, one, takes you out of the vicious circle or cycle of it, and it gets you into the present moment, because when we're in fear, we're not in the present moment.
Right, right.
And so it can stop the cycle, and then you could, oh yeah, what's true right now is I'm a child of God, I'm whole, perfect, and complete, and then that's a starting point. And, going back out into the world as we're doing now, we're gathering. Wow, we're gathering.
I know.
I know.
Look at this.
And, one thing to be aware of is our fear as we're gathering. I went to Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, talk about fear. It was.
What did you do?
I know. Right? What happens in Vegas.
Oh, okay, good to know. Good to know.
No, but I went to a restaurant, and there were no masks, and the doors were closed, and I could just feel it.
Yeah.
I could feel it in my body, and I could feel my tenseness.
Yeah.
So I just invite you to become aware of that if it happens within you, wherever you may be going, and honor what you're feeling, because everyone's going to be different as to what they can walk into or not. And you might want to go to a cup of tea with someone, and then that day, for some reason, it doesn't feel right. Well, honor that, and say, you know what, I'm going to change my mind today. And so we give each other the grace to come back out into the world at a pace that's right for ourselves. So we're having self-compassion for ourselves and then for others too.
I love that you mentioned the word grace, because that also, it seems like we also feed our minds a lot with the anti-grace, whatever that would be. What's the opposite of grace? Anybody?
Anxious
or criticism. I'm thinking of grace also in terms of mercy, so fault finding, right? And when you say we give ourselves the grace, I think as we give ourselves the grace, we give the others the grace too. Because if you're honoring your commitment to be truthful to yourself, then by virtue of the fact that we're only one, you're going to be honoring the commitment of others to be true to themselves without making a huge fuss about it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I was reading, as many of you know, I'm reading this book about mystical Christianity, and they talk about the beatitude, blessed are the merciful, for they shall have mercy. And the author likens mercy as an exchange, because of the root of the word has something to do with like merchant, an exchange of goods. And as we are merciful, we we empty ourselves of the quality of mercy. In other words, we pour it out of ourselves, and then we receive mercy back. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall have mercy. And it seems like that's another thing. That's another thing that we all get to work on, is to look at our lives, with Veronica's wisdom, is to look at our lives in terms of where we are feeling fear and asking ourselves, is this true? But maybe if the opposite of mercy is judgment, the opposite of grace is judgment, maybe we could also look at our lives, myself included, because I judge a lot. I've told many of you about when the pandemic first started. That was like a judgment jubilee. That was a judgment palooza. Oh my God. Going to Trader Joe's and people were not standing on their hibiscus, precisely on their hibiscus that was 6 feet apart. Yeah. But just to look at where we're judging, where I'm judging, and to ask myself, is that really true? And I find that a lot when people want to argue with me about the news on both sides of the political spectrum, that, it seems that people, and we all do this too in terms of our judgment of other people, we focus on one tiny little aspect of somebody's character, or one tiny little aspect of a bigger picture, and say this is true, when really it's not. There's a much bigger picture. And you may ask, how do you navigate through life if you don't really know what's true? Well, that's a topic for another sermon, another message. But
right.
But I think it starts there. Starts looking at where we're in fear and asking, is it true? And looking at where we're in judgment and asking, is that true? And just see where that takes us. Right. You have any thoughts on that?
Yes.
Good.
I thought about when judgment. Whenever I'm judgment, the next question would be. Where I'm judgmental of others and their actions, where have I done that in my life? Yeah. Because, pretty much every time I ask myself that question, I'm like, oh yeah. Like if someone's dishonest, okay, have I ever been dishonest? Oh yeah. If someone's, whatever it is I'm judging, it's some of that resides within me. Maybe not to a huge extent, but it resides within, so that judgment of others is coming right back to me. So it stops me in my tracks, because it just shows me how we are all one and how everyone is our mirror. Because it all exists within us. Maybe not to the same volume, but still it's still there.
Everyone does everything. And I'm really glad you acknowledged that you were dishonest, because I would have had to call you on it. No, I've done this to people, and someone recently did this for me recently, and it was done with a sense of lightheartedness, because I was kidding. I told somebody who's Buddhist, and you know who you are. He's here today. I said, well, I've never broken any of the precepts. And he said, I think you just did. Because one of them is that we don't lie, right? So,
Right.
so
Yes.
there's that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we acknowledge, the old Clint Eastwood, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Absolutely.
And we
Yeah.
just are as long as we can see, if we see that within ourselves, then we can move on. It's when we don't.
Yeah.
That we stay stuck
Yeah.
and become judgmental. So
Yeah.
it's like a dance. I think it's like a dance.
It's such a dance.
Yeah.
And I keep hearing the word shame as we're speaking, because if we do something and we lie and we're ashamed of it, and we're either dealing with the shame by pretending we didn't do it or suppressing it or feeling like horrible people because we did it, we are inevitably going to project that shame onto somebody else.
Absolutely.
Ah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even the good, the bad, and the ugly is judgment.
Yes, that's right. It is. That's right. But
When you think about it.
we are projectile beings, and I hesitate to say projectile
Yes.
in front
To a
of
nurse.
another nurse, but yeah. So just think about your projectile, whatever it is. But never
Yes.
mind. Okay, let's not even go there. Yeah. So we're about ready to wrap up, but I just wondered, as we. I think we've talked a little bit about what we need to know moving forward, about moving into a place of kindness towards ourselves and kindness towards others, and acknowledging our fear and acknowledging our judgment, and taking it slow and being authentic with ourselves.
Yes.
I'm wondering if those of us who are not currently healthcare professionals, is there anything that we can do to support the work of healthcare professionals?
Oh my gosh. Whenever I see a person in a uniform, I always thank them. Someone who's in the Marines or they're walking around in their uniform, I always thank them for serving our country. So if you see a nurse or someone in scrubs, I'm sure they would appreciate, a thank you, because it was a rough year.
Yes.
And a lot of us were saying, we didn't sign up for this. Who signed up for a pandemic? But, in consciousness, we did.
Yes.
We were the right people at the right time in the right place. And I believe that, our
Yes.
souls
Yes.
signed up for it. So I think that would be a really nice way to acknowledge.
Oh, I got chills. I am so over all that. I am so into that. Let's put it that way. We are on it. Let's put it that way. If you guys want to help with that too, you may be doing it already, just seeing somebody in a lab coat or scrubs or what have you, an EMT, a firefighter. Chaplains they're a little sneaky. You can't really tell who's a chaplain, but we've got 2 chaplains that attend this church, so just thanking them for their service, And that's the thing. One of the reasons I had Veronica come in is that I don't think people who don't work in a hospital or who haven't visited a hospital, because really none of us have been able to, I don't think we had any idea of how difficult it was. I mean, I watch the medical shows, and they make it look pretty bad, but it's nothing like being there, right? It is nothing like being there. Because, they
Right.
take off their mask and they go have a little booty call someplace. And really, Grey's Anatomy, can we talk?
Right.
That's all they do, So, and I doubt that was going on in your hospital. You were probably
No.
way too busy for the,
No, not at
for
all.
the bouquet.
Yeah.
So,
I know.
Anyway.
I would come home from work and watch Grey's Anatomy, and I'm like, why am I watching this?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I still watch it. It's yeah. But so Veronica, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your heart, your vulnerability, but also your wisdom. And I want to go back to that idea that you mentioned, the last thing that you said about thanking people who are healthcare professionals, going up to total strangers and thanking them for their service. It is perfect. It is the perfect thing to do. One of the things that I think a lot of people, anybody who has a calling of any kind, no matter what it is, whether it's raising children, whether it's being a healthcare professional, whether it's being in ministry, whether it's being a practitioner, whatever it is that we do, being a therapist, there are times when it seems absolutely futile. Am I right? There's times when it seems like we're making no progress whatsoever. And yet, I think that there is an antidote to futility, and that is that thing about the lanyard poem that I started with in this morning when I started this thing. Maybe we just gave Veronica applause. Maybe we just thank a healthcare professional as they are doing their sacred work. But what if all of those things, as Cynthia Bourgeault says, what if all of those things are like a hologram They're a hologram that multiply and multiply and multiply and multiply. And we have no idea where our act of emptying ourselves and where our act of being present with somebody and acknowledging the truth of their being, the truth of their service, we have no idea where that's going to go. And part of the reason I have the confidence to say that is that when I was on the phone with Veronica, we talked about how this is part of, may I expose your ministry, that this is part of her ministry, is to talk to people about post-COVID. And we are one of her first congregations to listen to that. So every single person here has played a role, has played a tiny but holographic part in receiving Veronica's word and sharing that word with others. And that will ripple outward. That will give her the strength and the confidence that she has already, but it will just amplify that for her. And many, many, many more people are going to be blessed by our sacred time here together. So with that, I want to do two things. Oh, sure, absolutely. I want to give you a parting gift.
Parting gift.
It's back to the lanyard. It's not much, but it's a little something, okay?
Thank
and
you.
also, we're giving you Sunday's flowers.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
they're
so
right there.
sweet.
You can take them home. You can take the vase. So,
Thank you.
I know you don't. Big hugs for Veronica,
Yes,
and let's
thank you.
let her stand and stand for her and give her a huge round of applause for her and for all healthcare professionals.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you're
Thank
willing
you.
to sit wherever you want.
Okay, thank
Okay?
you so much.
Okay, sure. All right, so let's just do a prayer now. So I turn within and just take in all this goodness. I just receive all of this goodness that I know is God, the one life that is God, the power, the presence, the love, the beauty, the sacredness, the sacrifice, all of it. All of it is the evolution of spirit through this congregation, through our individual lives, and through the world. And so I say yes to being a receptive vessel for all of that. I say yes to being a place where the greatest good can show up. And I say yes to what has happened here this morning. The information that was shared, but more importantly, the heart that was shared. The vulnerability, the insight, the wisdom, the love, all of it, and so much more, evolving us to be the people we are intended to be, to surrender into the greater good for all of our lives, and to use that greater good as a blessing for all beings everywhere. And so I am just so grateful for this gracious time together, so grateful for this beautiful, beautiful experience of sharing in person and sharing online. And I'm so grateful for the transformation for ourselves and for our community and for the world that is taking place because of this willingness to say yes to this morning. I bless all paths to spirit. I bless this teaching. I bless temples, synagogues, mosques, ashrams. I bless fundamentalists. I bless atheists and agnostics. I bless all beings everywhere, for all beings are part of the wholeness. All beings are part of this pathway to a greater acceptance and experience of spirit. And I bless these words, and I bless everyone here today. And with a heart filled with gratitude, I surrender this time together to the mystery. And together we say, and so it is. Namaste.
Well, we witnessed it again, another way to share countless tiny acts of kindness. Like maybe somebody's behind you in the line and they have scrubs on and you just step aside and go like that and say, I want to thank you for your service. In the middle of this whole thing, a bunch of things dropped away. Being able to go to the movies dropped away. Being able to go into a restaurant dropped away. Hugs dropped away. Parties dropped away. And you find out what's really priceless. What's really priceless is a chance to be of service. Like when you're in real trouble, it's that little chance to be of service. And kindness is the way. So somebody's going to pass a basket, and we actually have the opportunity, because we're in the room, to actually put something in a basket. You might hold that, whatever that is, next to your heart for a moment. And And some of you are out there in television land, and there's some sort of link. And you might hold that in your heart for a moment, because this is one way we get to be part of this. We get to actually fund Ripples of Kindness. It's a gift. It's priceless.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall I do the affirmation? I'm happy to do it. Okay, thank you. All right. All right, so please repeat after me. We trust in spirit. Love is the giver and receiver of all that we are. We offer our gift. It is an outer expression of our inner abundance. Our gifts bless many and return to us multiplied in miraculous ways. And so it is.
Thank you. Well, one thing I was fortunate to during this time of the pandemic, I also work as a music therapist. So I work in the hospitals and adult inpatient psych. So I got to be of service through music in the hospital setting and work with people, depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, and a lot of people dealing with loss of this time. You know, I'm going through some deep depression or loss of job, loss of a family member. So I feel very grateful too to be able to use music in that capacity to help with an overall wellness, whether that's the spiritual wellness, the mental, and physical. And I was grateful to be in a team too. I'm in a team with music therapy, drama therapy, art therapy, and dance and movement therapy. So, hey. So I'm grateful too for the hospital to have those positions available for us to be able to, see the effects that the arts have too. So, I tell them, I also work in hospice too, but I'm like, part of my job is to help with your spiritual wellness, whatever that means to you too. We can use music to address that. So here's a song, an empowering song, and since I'm also known as a rapping harpist, I got a rap song for you. So here it is. Maybe that'll kind of make the pain go away. Trying to forgive you for abandoning me. Praying, but I think I'm still an angel away. Angel away, yeah, strange in a way. Maybe that is why I chase strangers away. They got their guns out aiming at me, and I become near when they aiming at me. Me against them, me against enemies, me against friends. Somehow they both seem to become one. A sea full of sharks and they all smell blood. They start coming and I start rising. Must be surprising, I'm just surmising. I win, thrive, soar, higher, 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 more fire. I came to win, to fight, to conquer, to thrive. I came to win, to survive, to prosper, to rise, to fly, to fly. Everybody wanna try to box me in, suffocating every time it locks me in. Paint their own pictures and they crop me in, but I will remain where the top begins. Cause I'm not a word, I'm not a line, I'm not a girl that can never be defined. I'm not fly, I'm levitation. I represent an entire generation. I hear the criticism loud and clear. That is how I know that the time is near. See, we become alive in a time of fear, and I ain't got no time to spare. Yes, I cry my ass out for days upon days. Such a heavy burden placed upon me. But when you go hard, your nays become yeas. Know that God is there with you always. I came to win, to fight, to prosper, to rise. I came to win, to survive, to conquer, to thrive, to fly, for it. Here we go. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. I came to win. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. I came to win. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. I came to win. Last time. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. I came to win, to fight, to conquer, to thrive. I came to win, to survive, to prosper, to rise, to fly, to fly. Thank you.
Oh, you guys, we're so blessed, aren't we? Oh, just so beautiful. And you know, these two are on stage. There's so many great things happening behind the scenes, too. We've just got so much support, and it's so wonderful. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being. I think that's it. We're continuing to figure out what we're doing and hopefully keeping you all alert to what we're doing. And I'm excited about where this church can go, right? You too? Yeah? Center? Yeah? Thanks. Yeah. Okay. I guess it's time to pray. Again, here we go. Chris, thank you. All right, so let's turn within and just trust and know that we have been divinely led here to this sacred gathering, that it has been good and very good, that our hearts have opened, and that questions have been opened for us as well. Questions about how we are living our life and how we can continue to evolve into a deeper, more profound way of living, a way of living that not only blesses us, but blesses the entire world. I'm so grateful to be part of a community that asks these deep questions without needing to know the answers, but to know that the answers are a constant unfolding, a constant revelation, an unfurling of greater and greater grace as we continue to do the work. And so I know that as we go our separate ways, we do indeed continue to do the work, saying kind things to healthcare professionals, thanking them, thanking others, just being that place of grace in the world that we long to see. Grateful for this time together, grateful for everyone here, whether in person and online, and in that spirit of gratitude and such humility, I release these words into the divine mystery of God, and together we say, and so it is.